We got an important video here today because Bitcoin, which is the driver of this crypto markets, is looking bullish on a few time frames. However, it is looking critical on one of the main time frames, which we'll get into. I will also be talking about a reevaluation of this alt season because the resistance and the pattern that I initially thought was the start of this alt season has been broken. We're going to be getting into that as well. Also going to be talking to you guys about a few altcoin setups, which will include DIA, which is DIA, Sonic SUSDT, as well as Cartesi, CTSI. I think that's CTSI. Let me make sure. Okay. That is correct. CTSI Cartesi. So let's see what's going on in some of these altcoins later in this video. I highly don't recommend that you guys skip through because if Bitcoin dumps, these altcoin setups, they're not going to be worth much. Okay. I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin. So this is crucial. All right. We're also going to be taking a look into some major economics news as well, which could affect the markets. You guys know what I'm paying attention to. It is going to be anything affecting the FOMC meeting decision that's coming up September 17th. Something to be paying attention to because that could definitely fuel this bull market. Now, let's go ahead and get into some major economics news first before diving into the charts. All right, first piece here is going to be by Cointelegraph. Bitcoin bulls charge at 112K as gold hits fresh all-time highs. I think the entire market here is basically anticipating a Fed rate cut. Let's just take a look at the CME Watch tool. I think this is going to be the most anticipated event of the month, right? We're sitting at about over 90% now of a Fed rate cut that is coming up in September. That is great news. Unless anything major happens that could significantly tanks this probability, I think we're looking good for a rate cut here, and I think that's going to be a huge relief for the markets, and I do expect bullish price action to be following shortly, if not immediately, or even before then. Okay. So I am bullish on this market, of course. I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on altcoins still, even though I am recalculating this alt season, which I'll tell you guys more about. Now let's go ahead and go to the next piece. Next piece here is by Crypto News. Michael Saylor's strategy scoops over 4,000 Bitcoin, almost $450 million spent. Market barely blinks. Okay, so I think what it's probably saying is that, well, of course, this is bullish, right? There's less supply on the market. You can still see that some of these whales are still bullish on Bitcoin. That's why they're buying. So that is also another reason why, it kind of reaffirms my belief, right? Of course, these are just my opinions and not financial advice. You got to do your own research, but these are I'm still bullish on the market, even though we have broken below that key pattern I've been telling you guys about on the Bitcoin weekly charts. All right, next piece here is by Crypto Potato. Bitcoin's price analysis. Will a key support break trigger more losses for Bitcoin? We have quite a bit of key supports where Bitcoin is at right now, including the weekly 21 SMA. That is a huge, huge support level. Okay, if that breaks, we still have quite a few moving averages that could be good support levels. But this is a very key one, okay? And Bitcoin has just actually hit that right now. That's why we're seeing this bounce. Despite that, stock market is actually crashing right now. If you guys see my arrow, it's down over 1.5%, while Bitcoin is diverging from the stock market. That is pretty powerful because they usually correlate. All right, today, this is by the block. Bitcoin is still on sale. I think so. Strategy sells buys another over 4,000 Bitcoin for pretty much the same news. Okay, bringing in total holdings to 600,000 over 600,000 Bitcoin. That is pretty crazy. Okay, that is pretty crazy. Let's go to the next piece here. This is by B in Crypto. Bitcoin faces triple death cross warning amid historically weak September. So I think a little bit of things to dissect here. September is usually, I mean, they're saying that it's usually a weak month. I'm just gonna recall from personal experiences because I think I have pretty good memory. 2021 was pretty bad September until late September. 2022, I don't recall 2022. 2023, that was actually a pretty good September, or at least a start to a pretty good cycle, if you guys do remember. 2024 was, yeah, that was weak. But 2025 here, I think, we have I mean, I think a lot of it is going to depend on the trading pattern, right? So if a weak trading pattern arrives in September, then yeah, it's going to be a weak September. But I think if a bullish pattern actually is going on in the September, I mean, I don't think just being in September is going to stop the trading pattern. That's my belief. That's just my opinion. All right, let's come back here to Bitcoin here, monthly time frame. So I'm gonna be talking about why I think I should be evaluating this alt season. It's because the 110,000 resistance level was a cup and handle pattern on the weekly time frame. But as of last week's weekly candle close, we did get a weekly candle close back into um, that cup and handle pattern, which invalidates that breakout. Okay, I'm just gonna be completely straight with you guys. So that does invalidate that resistance. I thought it was the start of this alt season because if Bitcoin breaks above new all-time highs, then that's gonna be looking very good for the altcoins. But of course, altcoins haven't really been moving much. So what am I gonna be looking at as the start of this alt season? Let me get into it. Okay. Let's take a look into. So let's first of all say that on this monthly time frame, it still looks good, right? Because the August monthly close has not completely retraced that July monthly close. It does need a monthly candle close below 105K from about there to actually retrace that July pump. Okay, so on the monthly time frame, I'm still bullish. Weekly time frame looks a little shaky because we'll still have so since that break back into the cup and handle pattern, I am now seeing a rising wedge, which is usually a bearish pattern. Now the breakdown target here, if it breaks down by this point, let's just say for example, breakdown target is pretty steep. It's going to be about 76,000. Okay, that's going to drag the altcoins way down. So could Bitcoin actually avoid this breakdown here? Something to definitely be paying attention to right now. Now, it is on the weekly 21 SMA, which is the blue line here. Currently at about 108K. Okay. If we actually zoom in a little bit more and see if I can get any more clarity on what's going on, is that Bitcoin has actually broken out of this falling wedge pattern I also talked about. So could Bitcoin actually could it actually take another swing here to break back out of this bearish pattern here? That would be very bullish because the odds are that there is usually going to be a breakdown for a rising wedge pattern. But if there's going to be a breakout of this pattern against its probabilities, that's very bullish. Something to be paying attention to. Okay, on a shorter time frame. Now, the price target for this falling wedge pattern is going to be about 121,000. Okay. Of course, price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less. Very much depends on the type of market we're in. I also want to mention that the RSI reading to actually beat for previous price action highs, it's not that high anymore, okay? So for example, on the daily time frame, in order to avoid a bearish divergence scenario, Bitcoin just needs to break above 69, an RSI reading of 69 to avoid bearish divergence. Versus on the previous scenario, it did need to break above an RSI reading of about 76. So that's of course harder to beat, right? So something to be paying attention to is the price action chart, of course, the RSI for bearish divergence because that usually indicates a pullback. And of course, we have bullish divergence actually playing out right now, right on this daily time frame. So that's of course that's in hindsight, but just looking ahead when these signals occur, that's what you could expect based on probabilities. Let's go ahead and go to the stock market real quick because this is important because it is down over 1% today. I talked about this rising wedge pattern on the daily time frame that is breaking down right now. I'm going to wait for trading view to load here, so bear with me. But you guys can see that there was without my trend lines, but you guys can see that there was a rising wedge pattern breaking down right now. Trading view is lagging a little bit, but just bear with me here. So let's just go ahead and skip over to another chart here. Okay. We're going to go to Total 3. So aside from looking at Bitcoin, the recalculation of this alt season is also going to depend, of course, on the Total 3 chart, the actual altcoin chart, excluding Ethereum, of course. The price level to break for Total 3 is 1.15 trillion. Okay, if Total 3 is able to break above 1.15 trillion, that would be a huge indicator that confirms the start of this alt season. Okay, so we're currently at about 1.03 trillion, and we're looking at a cup and handle pattern if you actually take a look into the monthly time frame, of course. So without getting too much into that, let's go ahead and go to altcoin setups. Okay, we're going to take a look into DIA first and see what's happened with DIA, USD, or USDT. It's going to be very similar charts. All right, let's take a look. I'm sorry, my internet has been lagging. I switched internet services because they were giving a very good promotion, but I think I'm gonna have to do something with the modem here in order to get better signal. Okay. So daily time frame. I talked about this daily time frame, falling wedge pattern. It broke out back in August 7th. Price target would be about just right above $1.10 price target. Now I also want to mention that there has been a few trading patterns that has been invalidated and broken to the downside. For DIA, for Sonic, for CTSI, something to just be mindful of. So some new patterns have arisen because new data has been coming in. Now this breakout still valid. However, DIA has went down to as far as about 65 cents almost before rebounding, and now it has formed a smaller falling wedge pattern with a price target of about 80 cents. Let's see if it could get there, okay, before getting to the bigger one here. Let's go ahead and go to Sonic SUSDT and see what's going on with Sonic. All right, weekly time frame. Weekly time frame, Sonic. Falling wedge pattern. Definitely a pattern you should be paying attention to. Probably the most common pattern and the pattern you see over and over again on my channel because they're so easy to identify once you train your eyes to see it. Now, Sonic here, falling wedge pattern. It broke out back in the week of July 7th. Price target out of this breakout here would be about 94 cents. Now, since the breakout, it hasn't really been doing too much, which is not uncommon to see because usually when you break out of a extensive downtrend like a falling wedge, you would probably have quite a bit of moving averages that are going to be overhead resistance. Now, Sonic, let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see if I can get any more clarity. All right, it has broken out of this falling wedge, a smaller falling wedge pattern after breaking out of the bigger one. Price target for this one would be about 42 cents. Now, something to be paying attention to is that it has also formed a head and shoulders pattern, which is a bearish pattern that usually breaks to the downside. The neckline of this head and shoulders pattern is about 29 cents. Something to be paying attention to. Now, if this head and shoulders pattern breaks down, the measured target would be about 22 cents. That's quite steep. So let's see if Sonic could avoid this because the probabilities are it could break down. Now, even if this breaks down, the bigger falling wedge pattern breakout is still valid because the price action, let's just say if it stops at 22 cents, it will still be above this upward trend line of that bigger falling wedge pattern. Something to be paying attention to, okay? Let's go ahead and go to CTSI. Now, I just want to mention and just remind you guys that a lot of this is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin, okay? And a lot of what happens with Bitcoin, I think it's, for this month, a lot of it is going to depend on the Fed, okay? Because remember back in December or January when the Fed actually mentioned that they were going to stop lowering rates, the market tanked, okay? All right, let's go to CTSI, which is Cartesi. Let's take a look into the weekly time frame. Weekly time frame for CTSI. Falling wedge pattern. Again, price targets out of this breakout here, because I already broke out, would be about just right above 42 cents. Let's see if we can get there, because just because you break out of a pattern does not mean that you're gonna 100% get to that price target. Okay, just to repeat that. Now it is trying to get above some of these weekly moving averages as support, which include resistance, which includes the weekly 50 SMA at about 10 cents right now, the white line. Now, what has Cartesi been doing since the breakout here? Let's zoom in and see if I can get more clarity. Now, we do have a double bottom here on this daily time frame. It is trying to stay above the daily 200 SMA, which is the orange line here, very important. We have a double bottom with bullish divergence, okay? And the neckline of this double bottom would be about just right above 10 cents here, okay? Price target for this double bottom would be about 14 cents. Let's see if CTSI can actually, break out of this double bottom, because it's a bullish pattern that it usually has a higher chance of breaking out to the upside. Of course, they could break down as well. Now, this is basically what I'm seeing for some of these coins for the macro markets. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins by dropping a like, comment, subscribe, or any other coins in this market. Let me know in the comment section below. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis.